My name is Alina. I am 25 years old. I live in a small town near the sea. Every evening when the sun goes down and the air smells of salt and old wood, I sit near the window of my little room with a cup of tea and an empty sheet of paper. For 3 years, I have been trying to write a letter that I never sent. The paper turns yellow. My tea grows cold, but my heart still remembers every word I wanted to say. It began 4 years ago, on a rainy day in March. The bus was late, and I stood under a broken umbrella at the station. Water ran down my coat, my shoes were wet, and I felt miserable. A young man came beside me. He smiled and said, "Looks like the rain doesn't want to stop today." His voice was calm, kind, like warm coffee on a cold morning. I laughed and said, "Maybe it likes to watch us suffer." We both laughed, and something inside me opened, like a flower that had waited for the sun too long. His name was Daniel. He was 27, an engineer who had come to work in our town for a short project. We met again the next day, and then again after that. Soon, we started meeting almost every evening. We walked by the sea, talking about everything: dreams, books, music, and sometimes silence. He told me about his city far away, the big buildings, the noise, the people who never had time. I told him about my small town, the quiet streets, and how I wanted to become a writer one day. One night, while we were walking near the old lighthouse, he said, "You should write about the sea. It listens to everyone but never answers." I smiled and said, "Maybe it keeps all secrets safe." He looked at me and whispered, "Then I will tell the sea my secret." My heart beat fast. I asked softly, "What is your secret?" He smiled, but he didn't answer. The waves broke on the rocks, and the wind carried his silence away. Days passed like soft music. Then one morning, he said he had to go back to his city. The project was over. I tried to smile and said, "That's great, Daniel. You must be happy." But inside, I felt a quiet pain, like a small wound no one could see. He looked at me for a long time and said, "Maybe happiness and sadness can live together in one heart." I didn't know what to say. We stood there, just looking at each other as the bus engine started. Before he left, he gave me a small notebook. "Write your stories," he said. "Maybe one day I'll find them in a bookstore." I smiled, trying to hold back tears. "Maybe one day," I whispered. He waved, and the bus moved away, leaving me alone with the sound of rain and the smell of his perfume still in the air. That night, I opened the notebook. On the first page, he had written, "To Alina, keep writing, even when words hurt." I held it close to my chest. From that day, I began to write every night. At first, I wrote letters to him. I wrote about my days, the sea, the sky, the little things we used to notice together. I wrote about missing him, but I never sent them. I didn't know his new address. Maybe I was afraid to send them. Maybe I wanted to keep him alive in my words, not in silence. Months turned into years. Life moved on, like waves that never stop. I got a job at a small bookstore. Every day I met people who came to buy stories written by others, and I wondered if one day someone would buy mine. Sometimes, when I saw couples walking hand in hand, I smiled. I had learned to hide my ache behind gentle smiles. One afternoon, as I was arranging books, a man came into the store. For a moment, my heart stopped. He looked like Daniel. The same tall figure, the same calm eyes. But it wasn't him. He smiled politely and asked for a novel. When he left, I felt tears rise in my eyes. I went to the back room and opened my notebook again. It had been a long time since I wrote in it. My hand trembled as I wrote, "Dear Daniel, today I saw someone who looked like you. My heart still remembers how you smiled." I didn't realize I'd started writing again. The words just came. Every night after work, I continued. The letters became longer. I told him everything: my fears, my dreams, how I learned to live alone but not lonely. Writing to him became my way of breathing. Even though the letters never left my desk, they gave me peace. One night, during a storm, the electricity went out. I lit a candle and opened the notebook. The light danced on the walls. I began another letter. "Dear Daniel," I wrote, "sometimes I imagine you standing at the old lighthouse, waiting for me. I wish I had told you that day how much you meant to me. I wish I had asked you to stay." The candle flickered, and a drop of wax fell on the paper. It felt like a tear. I looked out of the window. The sea was wild, angry. I remembered his words: "The sea keeps all secrets safe." So I took the notebook, wrapped it in plastic, and walked out into the storm. The wind pushed against me, the rain hit my face, but I kept walking until I reached the lighthouse. I stood there, shaking, my clothes soaked. I looked at the dark water and whispered, "Take my secret too." I threw the notebook into the sea. It floated for a few seconds and then disappeared. I stood there for a long time, crying, laughing, feeling both empty and full. The storm slowed, and the clouds began to open. The moon came out, and everything looked silver and calm again. I whispered, "Goodbye, Daniel," and walked back home. The next morning, the world looked new. The sun was bright. The air smelled of salt and hope. I made tea and sat near the window. For the first time in 3 years, there was no empty paper in front of me. I didn't feel the need to write. I realized that the letter I never sent had already done its work. It had carried my heart through pain to peace. Weeks later, a small package arrived at my bookstore. It had no name, no address, just my store's name written in simple handwriting. Inside, there was a notebook. My notebook. It was wet, torn, but still together. On the last page, someone had written, "The sea returned what belongs to you." There was no signature. My hands trembled. I looked out at the sea through the shop window. The waves were calm, like they were smiling. I smiled back and whispered, "Thank you." From that day, I began to write new stories, not letters to someone gone, but stories for everyone still here. Stories of love, loss, hope, and second chances. Every time I wrote, I felt Daniel near me, not as a pain, but as a soft memory that pushed me to live fully. I learned that some love stories don't end with togetherness. They end with understanding. Some letters don't need to be sent to reach their destination. Years passed. I became a writer. My first book was called A Letter Never Sent. People wrote to me saying it made them cry, made them believe again in quiet love. Sometimes when readers asked if the story was true, I smiled and said, "Every word came from the heart." And every evening when the sun sets and the sea turns gold, I sit by the window with a cup of tea. I still think of him, but not with pain. Now I think of him with gratitude. Because he taught me that love is not only about holding on. Sometimes Real love is learning when to let go. Hey friends, if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more amazing content. Thanks for watching.